Hello everyone and welcome back to RC Fun and Games. I am Ryan and today we are back in the garage to start our Jeep Cherokee Injora build. So let's get stuck in. Let me show you guys exactly what I've got sitting on the table here so I can get started. So let's see what we've got. We have got the silver brass belly pan or gearbox mount. We have got the high clearance brass links, hardened drive shafts. We have got the 370 motor and transmission. When I purchased these parts, it was still before the brushless system was available, or else I would have used the brushless system, but you never know. I might pick one up as soon as they're back in stock, so we can replace this and throw that in. Of course, we have got a servo horn and a servo. I've gone for the 11 kilogram cordless servo from Injora. They have not failed me and they perform really well. We've also got these 1.0 rims. I went for the 6-spoke deep dish offset. And tires to go on that, I went for these. They say all-terrain or crawler tires. Yeah, all-terrain crawler tires. They've got a bit of a funny pattern. They looked a bit different and I wanted to try them out as I haven't tried a set of these tires yet. So let me just show you guys what it looks like. So I haven't used any of these yet, but as you can see, they've got an interesting tread and I thought they would look quite realistic. And what I liked about them was that they are quite thick again, 24 millimeters. So let's see what these look like on this truck when we finished. And of course, how do they perform, because I haven't tested any of these yet. Now, of course, I had to try out the awesome new portal axles from Injora. I haven't had a chance to try these out yet, so this is going to be awesome. And of course, I decided to use the universal chassis for this build as well, just for the sheer fact that, of course, I am using a laydown servo setup on these axles. So to have that extra space, I went for the universal chassis from Injora. And of course, we've got the awesome new Jeep Cherokee body from Injora. So we'll be checking that out right towards the end of the build and assembling it and of course getting it onto the truck. And I went for the Injora Dumburg 6-channel transmitter and receiver combo, and of course I bought it immediately with the MB80 to give it a test. I've tried a few of the MB100s, they've been awesome, but I would like to have a little bit more power in reverse, so of course we're going to be checking out the new MB80. So these are the parts I've got. Now I did forget to buy myself a battery tray for this build, so I'll have to pick one up. For now, I'll just have to make a plan, but I'm not waiting. We are going to get stuck in. Okay, so I'm going to grab the universal chassis and let's get stuck in. Okay, so let's start by getting this packet open. And here is the extension pieces if you were going to use this chassis for a K10 or a Ford F-150 high trail. But we're not going to be using that, so we can throw that to the side. Let's grab our 2 front chassis rails. We will need those afterwards to adapt the bumpers. So let's get this as well. Let's get our 2 poles out that are going to hold the chassis separating each other. The back one is going to be wider than the front one, so that's pretty easy to determine. Might as well get our tray open as well, so we can get that in between the chassis rails. And now starts the exciting part. Let's get this together. So
just happened. This is not a Christmas. This is not a Christmas song. This is not a Christmas. This is not a Christmas song. This is not a Christmas. This is not a Christmas song. This is not a Christmas. This is not a Christmas song. My neighbors compete to see who can put up more blinding lights. The kids all wish away the month 'cause they want just a boy. Christmas brought so much joy.
Okay, now we got the two front ones on. I'm gonna grab the rear ones, and the rear ones have double screw holes, so they're easy to tell which one goes in the front, which one goes in the rear. And once again, you don't have to use Loctite because it's so tight through the carbon fiber, this screw ain't gonna come loose.
Became a man, lost sight of who I am, but right in front of me was the answer.
Okay, so got those all mounted on. As you can see, the chassis is complete and it's really quick and easy to put together. And in my opinion, it's my favorite chassis so far from Injora for the Traxxas Trx4m platform. Yes, it hasn't got as much of a lean and a degree, but in overall, the scale look that I go for my trucks, I think this chassis suits the best. And don't forget, it's the only chassis available from Injora that can actually take the laydown servo setup. So take that in consideration when you do your build. Now let's move on. Let's grab the belly pan over here. Let's open this packet up. Let's get this gearbox mount out. Okay, so as we can see, it comes with all the hardware and an awesome looking mount. I've got to say, the finishing off on these products from Injora have been really awesome. And once again, this one doesn't let me down. This is a new color that's come out, so I thought I'd give it a try on this build and see what it looks like at the end. Anyway, okay, so let's grab the belly pan and let's get it in here in between the chassis. Okay, so now that we've got that in, we can grab our drive shafts and we can grab our motor. Might as well get these two open and assembled. Okay, so once again, the hardware needed to tighten down the transmission is there. We've got our transmission. Now, I will open this up and I will grease it. I'm not going to bother doing it in this build video, but I am letting you know I will open it up and I will be putting grease in there, okay? And of course, our drive shafts. Okay, checking out this awesome transmission. I know they've been around now for a while, but I still think it's an awesome bit of engineering and it works really, really well. And I still haven't tested this on 3S, but I've got another 3S battery on the way, so we will be testing that as well to see what kind of power do we get out of this 370 motor on 3S. Anyway, let's just open up this transmission. Let's check how much grease it's got inside, because I always recommend opening and checking before installing it into the rig. Okay, so just gonna push down on this so that the gears don't all come out at the same time. And you see, it was a really good idea to open this one and check. As you can see, there's not much grease on that. There is grease, but there's very, very little. So I'm gonna grab my little paintbrush and I'm quickly gonna coat it with a little bit of graphite grease from Castrol. Grab a bit of paper, wipe any excess grease that I got on the outside of it off. Okay, so now we're ready to throw it inside the truck, but before we do that, we need to grab our drive shafts and of course throw them on there. Okay, now that I've got the transmission in my hand after following the instructions, of course I can't put that up there. I'm gonna have to move it to the front of the tower. So let me just quickly move that off camera and I'll be right back. Okay, as you can see, now we've got plenty of space for it to fit there. Okay, I'm just gonna grab the 4 screws that came with the transmission. Let's move on, let's grab these links, let's get this packet open and get them assembled. So I'm going to assemble these like I've always assembled them. At the bottom I'm not going to put any spacers, I'm just going to put the ball joints, and of course on the upper ones I am going to put a spacer on either side. Just screw on the link, it's very quick, very easy to do. Just grab your ball joint after that, drop it in there and push with your finger. And they're as easy as that to do. Now, don't run away. Okay, I'm gonna assemble one of the upper ones so you guys can see what I mean. So I'm gonna grab one of these little spaces they provide, and you're just gonna throw one on one side, grab your ball joint, screw it on. Now, I don't know if I need this with the portal axles, but I'm pretty sure it will still have the same issue with the angles of the drive shafts, so I'm assuming I'm going to do them like this. Now, if there is any difference that I don't have to put these on, I will point it out during the build. But for now, I'm just going to assemble like I've done all my others. Okay, so on all the straight links, you're going to put one spacer on either side to make that little bit of extra length, just to push the axle a little bit forward so that the angles on the drive shaft are better. Now, like I mentioned, if I don't need it, I will point it out later on in the build. I thought I'll mention this too. On the bottom links on the front axle, I am going to use the angled ball ends. Okay, so they go on the short side, but I just wanted to point that out because it allows you a bit more space between the shock and the link, so there's no catching or anything like that. Okay, just makes for a nice angle, and it, in my opinion, it seems to get a little bit more articulation with them like this. So okay, so we got them all assembled, and like I mentioned, I've put a spacer on either side on all the upper links, which are the straight ones. So let's start getting these in, let's get them installed so we can get the shocks out, get them filled with oil. Okay, so now that we've got to this stage, we can grab our shocks and let's get this packet open. Okay, so we get the hardware needed, and we also get some harder springs to fit to the shocks. And of course, we get our shocks. Okay, I'm not going to bore you guys filling up the shocks and doing everything on camera. If you want to know exactly how to set them up and everything, I'm going to share a link in the upper corner over here. Go and check that out. That will show you what you need to know about assembling and, of course, setting up your shocks. So I'll be right back once I've got these fully assembled and ready to go. Okay, so I got all 4 mounted up. I filled them up with 50 WT oil, and of course I placed the ball joints in place. So this is the motion I'm having. Okay, one of the reasons I'm running such a thick oil on them is because our temperatures here are pretty hot, so the oil becomes very thin. So it's almost the same as running a 20 WT. And as you can see, it's got just that perfect damping motion, which I like. And just to show you, this is how you want your shocks to end up. They don't really have a negative and they don't really have a positive. They'll stay where you leave them. Now, of course, when you push in over here, you've got the bladder up on top, which always pushes it out. But no matter where you put it, is where it stays, meaning you haven't got air trapped in your shocks. That's very important. Now, we can move on to the next stage. Since we've got all the ball joints in and everything else, let's get them thrown onto the truck. Okay, so I'm going to grab the long screws provided. I'm going to throw them in, and I'm going to use those spacers that came with the chassis. Let's see if they are enough. They do look like they are enough, so I'm just going to drop it in here to the third hole like I said, and throw my nut on the back. Let's see what these portal axles look like. I'm very interested in seeing this. I was going to do a video just installing portal axles, but because I was going to do this build, I thought I'll wait to give them a try. Hey, those look awesome. I love the design of the diamond axle, and of course, being a diamond axle with the portals, that looks pretty cool. Now, let's get this open. Okay, looking close at these things, I've got to say the design is really awesome, and the finish off, like always, is really amazing. And these little portal axles, they look so cool. Now, before I get everything assembled to it, like the mount and everything, let's get these portals open. Let's open up the main piece. Let's check that ring and pinion gear and make sure everything has got enough grease, because after checking that motor, I would definitely recommend, before installing any axles, make sure that you check if they've got enough grease. So let's get stuck in. Okay, and as you can all see, there is a bit of grease in there. Most of it is sitting on the shaft. It's not really got too much on the actual gears, but I'm gonna stick some grease in there myself quickly. Okay, that was quick and easy, and I just wanted to point out that this is the helical gears. They're not the straight cut gears, and I like that because normally they are quieter and there's also less play on this type of gear. So now we've checked those, I think it's time we open up these portals and see what's going on in here as well. So let's open this up and let's see what's going on in here. And there is definitely a little bit of grease in there, but I'm just going to add a little bit more. Okay, so I'm all done greasing up the axles. I also opened the rear and checked them, and I'm glad I did because they did need some grease. And I just wanted to show you guys the awesome design of the rear axle. The way they've actually made this is really awesome. I really like these axles and I can't wait to give them a real good test. Anyway, before we throw them on the truck, let's just grab our servo mount. Let's get all that mounted on and get our servo onto the front axle. Then we can throw it onto the truck. Okay, now that we've got the steering link on, we can grab our servo and let's get that open. Just wanted to show you all the detail on these awesome cordless servos from Injora. Besides them looking awesome, they perform extremely well, especially if you use the MB100, the MB80, and on the new brushless system. Once again, you've got the dip switch, so you can change from 6 to 7.2 volt, and that's when you really notice how good these servos are. Okay, let's get this one thrown in there, and we will afterwards fit the servo horn once we've got this connected to the electronics. And on these, I'm also going to use a bit of Loctite. Okay, now that we've got all this fitted, we can get them onto the truck. We will worry about the servo horn once we get the servo connected to the electronics. Okay, I'm now going to quickly grab my front drive shaft before I throw on the rear axle, and don't forget to put it in phase, so the lugs have got to match up with the other lugs, or else you will have a very funny uneven ride. Okay, so once I got the links installed, I wasn't quite happy with the angles on my back axle, so I removed one of the spacers on the upper, I removed one of the spacers on either side on the upper links. Now, on the front, you could put an extra spacer to improve the drive shaft angle and to get the axle to sit down more, but I'm not so worried about that right now. I think it will work perfectly fine. So let's move on, let's grab the body, let's assemble the body, and let's get the bumpers installed and everything, so then we can install our electronics. So we finally got to that stage where we need to get this box open and assemble the body. So let's get this thing out. Okay, we get a whole bunch of accessories, bumpers, and of course the awesome Jeep body. Oh, and window. I really don't think this one's going to be very difficult, so let's just get this hard way out. Couple of screws over here, so let's grab those. I'm pretty sure that's what will be holding the window. They're all the same size, so you don't have to worry. Okay, so now I'm gonna grab these over here and I'm gonna throw them in the back over here. Hope I can catch this on camera. But you've got a little slot for it to slide into. body looks awesome. Now, just before I call it quits, I'm just going to grab a hot iron and melt those little tabs. Okay, so it's all done. Those door handles and mirrors and stuff are not going to fall out. I also just took a Sharpie and ran it on the inside of the fenders because they were white and they didn't look good. So now it just finishes off that look. And I am ready to move on to the next stage. Let's put that in the background. Let's get the chassis and let's get these bumpers mounted up. Okay, so we've got the bumpers all mounted up. Let's just check if this body's gonna fit on, if everything matches up. And just like the other Jeep, you've got to pull the tab. Okay, so as you can see, we got the body on. It's definitely difficult, just like the other Jeep body. It's quite difficult to pop on and take off, but at least it doesn't seem to fall off. Now, let's get the wheels assembled so that we can throw them on the chassis, and then of course we can get our electronics in. So now let's grab our rims and wheels. Well, let's quickly check out the rims I'm going to use on this rig. And I went for the 6-spoke. I think these are 43 gram or something. But they're some of my favorites. I love this look of a mag wheel. And I think it's going to suit the Cherokee Jeep really, really nicely. Okay, so let's get them assembled. I'm only going to show you one. The rest I'll quickly do off camera. I'm just going to throw the ring in there. Now, once you've got your ring in, just make sure it is seated properly. Feels good to me. Now let's just throw this in. There is a direction to your tires, so pay attention to that. I'm going to throw this one in from this side. Once again, just pull all the way around a little bit just to make sure that it's seated down nicely. Once you've got it there, get the rear part and just throw it in place. Okay, and like I've mentioned many times, don't put the screws all the way in. Get two to take, get all your screws in, and then tighten down in a zigzag pattern. And once you've done that, you're ready to put them on the truck. So I'll be right back once I've got all of them assembled. Okay, so I got the wheels all mounted up. Now it's time to get them onto the truck, and the fastest way I know how to do that is like this. And done. Check that out, guys. I think it turned out awesome. It's got a bit of a high look because of the portal axles. I'll mess around with the shock positions in the future to see if I can get it to sit a bit lower. But if you look at the bottom, you can see the angles on the high clearance links are straight, which is the way I always want my rigs to sit. And with all this extra clearance, this thing is going to be a little beast. Now, let's get that body off again. Let's get the electronics in so we can finish off this awesome little build. So I've grabbed the battery tray from one of my other rigs. Until the other battery trays that I've ordered arrive, I'm just going to stick this one in there for now. So let's just put that with its spacer. Okay, so I got the battery tray in, and I think this look with the carbon fiber is looking really awesome. And of course, with all those metal components, it is looking pretty blinged out and looks like a heck of a rig. Now let's just get the electronics in, get our servo horn on, and we are ready to rumble. Okay, like I mentioned, I just picked up another Dumborg radio receiver combo. These work really well in my opinion, and for the price they're pretty unbeatable. Now I did decide to order it with the MB80, so we've got that one, and of course our 6-channel transmitter and receiver combo. Nothing great about them, but they are always smooth and feel really good. Now, of course, like I've mentioned, we've got the MB80, so we'll be checking that out because I did find that the MB100 still lacked that power in reverse, especially when you're in between the rocks. So I'm hoping this one performs a little bit better. Okay, we get our instructions. We get some double-sided tape, which is always handy to have lying around. And of course, we get our MB80. And I know it says MB100, but because of the red tab, you know it's the MB80. Let's get our cables over here because we're going to need to get them all plugged in. We're definitely going to be running Trx's battery on this one. So I'll take this one, and that one I'm just going to stick in here. Okay, and of course we're going to grab our 3-tab. Now you'll notice that this one has got the slot, this one doesn't. So this is the one for your white facing homes, black being your negative. So that way around. So there's the wiring done on that one. Now this will also be quite easy as this is your receiver, so it will plug into number 2. Okay, really easy. Now I'm just going to get some of this Velcro for now, and I'll use this to stick it down. Okay, so I got the electronics in like this. I've put this way so I can clear the plug over here. That plug is fine, and that one is just sitting up against it, so it gives me just enough space to get this one in. Now I'm going to take my motor cable, I'm going to plug that in. Make sure you put positive to positive, negative to negative. Okay, so let's just get this servo cable loose so we can get it plugged in, so we can get our servo horn on. Okay, so I've got all the cables tucked away. I didn't do... Okay, so I got all the cables tucked away. I couldn't do it on camera. It's just impossible. My hands are always in front of the camera trying to pass the wires. But you get the idea. I've run it along the chassis rails underneath the battery tray and tied it up where needed with a couple of zip ties. Now, I've got everything plugged in. I've got the servo plugged in. So now all we need to do is put the battery back in. First, let's turn on the remote. Remote is on. Okay, it's plugged in. Press the button. All powered on. I heard the servo move. Okay, servo's moving. Let's just make sure all our trims are at neutral. They are. So now we know that our servo horn is in the right place, so we can stick that on as well. Definitely don't forget a bit of Loctite on this screw. Okay, so that's about as straight as I'm gonna get it. Okay, it's not touching. Let's just see how it steers. Seems to be perfect. There we are. So we've got everything on, all the electronics are working. Let's check if it goes forward or backwards. Okay, so the wires are the wrong way around. Should see something. So in this case, we need to flip the motor wires. That should change the direction and give us our 100% forward and slower in reverse. Okay. Okay, so if you had the same issue as me, just flip your wire around because it was in the right direction for reverse being slower than forward, but the motor itself was running the wrong direction. So I just swapped the tab around and now it's all perfect. Forward is forward, reverse is reverse. Turning is this way, it's right. Turning that way is right. So everything is perfect. I'm quite happy. It runs nice and smoothly. And I've got to say the modulation from these 370 systems with the MB80 is freaking awesome. Check that out. And let's just try something. Put a wheel there. You see, it's got a nice crawl, even though it's at such low modulation. Even when you hit an obstacle, it still seems to just continue. And that's what I really... Okay, so as we can see, the modulation from this system on this rig is awesome. Everything seems to be working nice and smoothly. Okay, so I'm all done with this build, and I think it turned out awesome. I love the stance of it. All the parts, once again, went together really, really well. The only thing I'm having trouble with is the back clip over here a bit. But, you know, like most of them, you mess around with it, it does go on. It's definitely not going to fall off. So all I've got left to do now is take it out, get it onto that backyard course, go and do a little bit of testing to see how it behaves with these portal axles and everything. I hope you all enjoyed this build. Please, if you did enjoy the build, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't, because it all really helps my small little channel bring more content like this to all of you. So for now, I'm going to say happy trails to you all, and I'm going to leave you guys with some running footage outside.